Welcome to Demon Sleep. I'm here to help you unwind tonight. If you enjoy this space, feel free to like and subscribe. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It makes this feel like a shared night across the world. These stories are different and I'm glad you're here. Dim the lights, let the room settle, and let's begin. Story 1: The Haunted Jungle at Night. My name is Akram Shahzad. I'm 55 years old now, but I still drive a truck with the same passion I had 20 years ago. My entire youth, my whole career, has been spent in this cargo line. People say driving is risky. I say that the journey is real life. The story I'm about to tell has never been shared fully with anyone before because other drivers always make fun of it. But what I saw, what I experienced, it's all still alive inside me. This happened a few years ago. I swear, even today, whenever I take the Karachi to Kashmir route, that little bell in my mind starts ringing on its own. That day, I had to deliver a large piece of machinery from Karachi port to a remote area in Kashmir, a heavy-duty router needed for a mountain cutting project. I got it loaded at the port, had a cup of tea, and started planning the route. Karachi, Hyderabad, Sukkur, Bawalpur, Lahore, motorway, and then straight towards Kashmir. I knew it would take about 2 days and 2 nights. The road was tough. The router was huge. As soon as it was loaded onto the truck, it made a sharp, distinct sound under the weight. But this was my daily routine. I started the engine, felt the usual subtle ticks of the truck, its heavy bounce, and set off from Karachi. This is the story that made me stop sleeping in my truck. Before this, if I ever got tired on the road, I would just sleep in the truck. But after this event, I stopped completely. A few months earlier, there had been an attempted robbery. 2 men appeared on the highway, broke my window, and pressed a knife against my neck. After that, sleep left me forever. So I got a camping tent from Lahore and also bought a small bell. At first, I just thought it was a nice little thing. But gradually, I started hanging it on the camp door. I thought if any wild animal or human came near, the bell would ring and I could wake up. But that day, I had no idea that this bell would mark the most terrifying night of my life. After crossing Lahore and heading north on the motorway, evening had fallen. As I went toward the mountains, a cold wind began to blow. Steep mountain slopes rose ahead of me. I got a message from the company. "Brother Akram, the site is inside the jungle. The road is rough. You'll reach by night. Rest when you get there." My body was exhausted. Sleep kept pressing against my eyes. But I thought, if I could just find a little open area ahead, I could set up camp. As I moved deeper into the jungle, the cold grew stronger and the road became more desolate. No cars, no huts, just dense trees and silence. Around 2:30 a.m. I stopped the truck. There was no open space at all, but just enough space for the truck to sit on one side while I set up camp on the other. I always pitched my camp a little distance from the truck. If, God forbid, someone with bad intentions came by, I wouldn't run into them directly. I had calculated it all. Life is too precious. Before this, I had taken huge risks for the company, but when it came down to it, my children came to mind. If something happens to me, what will become of my kids? I took out my flashlight and scanned the ground. I found a few small clearings and set up camp in a patch of bushes a little away from the truck. My truck was parked behind me. Ahead, the forest stretched deep and black, completely swallowed by darkness. The cold air carried a strange weight, something that wasn't entirely ordinary, as if the silence itself were making noises. I hung the bell on the camp door out of habit. I told myself, "Akram, it's just fatigue, just sleep." I lay down in the tent, adjusted my pillow, and closed my eyes. After what felt like a while, I realized I had fallen asleep. Then I heard the bell very faintly, like someone had just brushed it lightly with a fingertip. My eyes snapped open. I listened closely. A few seconds of silence, then the bell rang again, louder this time. I grabbed my flashlight and held my breath. Slowly, I unzipped the tent and shone the light outside. Nothing, just trees, wind, and an unsettling emptiness. I went back inside. A short while later, I heard the faint sound of footsteps outside. Small, deliberate steps on the rocky ground, barefoot. Not just one set of steps, maybe 2, 3, or 4. My heart froze. Then I heard a faint, childish giggle. Not close, not distant, right outside my camp, as if the sound had swallowed my entire being. My mind immediately told me, these can't be human children. There's no settlement for miles. I grabbed the flashlight again, unzipped the tent, and shone the beam outside. Still, only bushes and darkness. No child, no human. I kept telling myself it's just fatigue, just imagination. Then the bell rang sharply this time, as if someone had grabbed it and shaken it violently. I stepped out of the tent with the flashlight. The bell stopped as soon as I moved, but immediately the small jingles hanging on the side of the truck began to shake. Slowly, deliberately, like someone standing next to them, moving them by hand. I shone the light, nothing. Then came the footsteps again, circling the camp slowly, then suddenly stopping right in front of me. But I could see nothing. And then came the heavy, ragged breathing, not human, not animal. A mix of soft, childlike steps and a deep, powerful breath, as if something massive was standing there. I slowly stepped back, zipped the tent shut, and lay down, trying to convince myself that it was nothing. I lay in the tent, but the sounds wouldn't stop. Every step outside, the faint ting-ting of the bell, the heavy breathing, I could hear it all crystal clear. I had spent countless nights on the road, but never had I experienced silence so terrifying. That night, the darkness itself felt lethal. My heart was pounding. Through the thin fabric wall of the tent, it felt like 3 or 4 children were running past, barefoot on the rough ground, followed by bursts of laughter. Then they'd pause, then run again, and in between, a faint, thin giggle like the mischievous laugh of a child. But that night, that laugh felt like it was drilling straight into my spine. I kept telling myself, Akram, maybe they're just workers' kids playing, but my mind knew better. There was no settlement for miles. No one lived here. No huts, no houses. Even the locals left at night. A few minutes later, the sound stopped. Absolute silence fell. Then, right outside the tent wall, I heard very faint steps, as if someone had come and was standing there just watching me. The thin layer of fabric that made the tent wall, if you pressed against it, you could see a shadow inside. My breath caught. Someone or something was standing there, right outside, completely still. I gripped my flashlight tightly, but I couldn't bring myself to go out or even shine the light. It felt like whatever it was watching me, waiting for me to make a move. Then, a light tap on the tent wall like a child had flicked it with a finger. I thought to myself, just go outside and see. But my courage failed me. The bell rang again, but this time the sound had changed. Moments later, the bell hanging on the camp door started swinging on its own, first softly, then harder, like someone was playing with it, like children teasing each other. It wasn't just the sound. I noticed something strange in it. The laughter was childlike, but it carried something inhuman. The tone was slightly deeper, rougher, like 3 children laughing, and something much bigger speaking alongside them. But I couldn't make out the words. Suddenly, a sound came from under the truck. Something, or someone, running on all 4s, shooting past the back of my camp like lightning. My heart sank. In my entire career, no human could move that fast. I made a decision. I would turn on the flashlight and step out immediately. I gathered every bit of courage I had. I straightened up, held my breath, unzipped the tent, and shone the beam outside. To the left, nothing. To the right, the towering rows of massive trees. Behind the camp, a small sand mound a few feet away, the truck. And then behind the truck, I saw a shadow. Small, child-sized, but not quite human. But as soon as I aimed the light directly at it, the shadow began to move, like it was slipping behind something to hide. I swung the beam around. Nothing. The shadow hadn't vanished completely. It had just shifted. And then I realized something had moved from behind the truck to the other side of my camp. Once again, I heard the sound of running, followed by muffled children's laughter. I rushed back inside the tent and zipped it shut. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would burst out of my chest. Then I heard what may have been the most terrifying sound of my life. It was like someone was calling my name, but distorted, twisted, spoken softly in a wrong way. I told myself it was my imagination, but then I heard it again. It wasn't a child's voice. It was thin, unnatural, strange. And then I heard footsteps again, this time not slow and creeping, but firm, like boys walking across an open field, coming to a stop right in front of me. The fabric of a tent shows shadows even without light. I raised the flashlight and aimed it outward. The light couldn't pass through the cloth, but it cast a shape. Right in front of my eyes, a shadow appeared on the tent wall, a small figure, a round head, short hair, small arms, and it was moving as if slowly touching the tent wall. My breath stopped. Then just below that shadow, two more appeared, 4 shadows in total, all different, but there was nothing human in the way they moved. Suddenly, the shadows shuddered violently like a ripple and then vanished. The tent wall was clear again. The shadows were gone. But the sounds didn't stop. My hands were shaking. Even the flashlight beam trembled. Outside on the rocky ground, the sound of running returned, this time louder, faster, like children chasing each other. That laughter, even today when I remember it, I can't sleep at night. I sat inside the tent, frozen, listening. Then suddenly the tent zipper made a very soft movement. My heart stopped. I knew the wind wasn't that strong, and the zipper was inside the tent. It could only move if someone was holding it from the outside. I aimed the flashlight. The zipper moved again, just slightly. Enough, Akram. You have to be brave now, I told myself. I took a deep breath, reached forward, grabbed the zipper firmly, yanked it open, and stepped outside. I shone the light everywhere. Nothing. As far as I could see, there was no one there. Then suddenly, from behind me, I heard children running. I spun around with the flashlight. Noise on one side, silence on the other. But this time, the voice was crystal clear, for the first time. Come on, catch him, he's here. That voice was not human. Not the tone, not the breath, not the way it was spoken. Behind those words was something stretched, warped, something deeply wrong. It felt like someone was trying to form words, but couldn't complete them properly. And then, all at once, the bell rang violently. I turned around. The bell was no longer hanging where it should have been. It had fallen to the ground in front of the camp, as if someone had deliberately yanked it down and thrown it away. In that moment, I understood. This was no ordinary thing. The shadows, the voices, the footsteps, all of it belonged to something from another world. I thought the only safe place left was the truck. I ran toward it. Suddenly, the horn blared on its own, loud and violent, like someone was sitting inside the truck and smashing the horn with their hand. I froze. My feet stopped mid-step. A faint humming seemed to circle the truck, and then, after the horn, everything went silent. Then came a knock, knock, knock on the truck's body. 3 clear knocks, like someone hitting it with their hand. I aimed the flashlight behind the truck. A small shadow darted to the left at unbelievable speed. I couldn't even see what it was. I jumped into the truck, slammed the door shut, and locked it from the inside. My heart was pounding out of control. Then something came and stood right outside my door. I could hear it breathing deep, heavy breaths, long and wounded, like an injured animal. I sat there trembling. The flashlight was on, but I couldn't move. Then the breathing faded away. I heard 2 footsteps, then 3 or 4 more, like they were all leaving together, and suddenly complete silence. I spent the rest of the night like that, trapped in terror, without sleeping for even a second. When the faint light of morning finally appeared, I opened the door and stepped outside. My boots sank into the sand, and then I saw it. All around my truck were dozens of small footprints, child-sized, like 4 or 5-year-old children. But the strange thing was this: the footprints only showed arrival. There were no tracks leading away. When I realized that, my heart nearly stopped. I packed up the camp immediately and drove straight to the nearby stop. When I reached there, my face was pale, my hands were shaking, and my body carried both exhaustion and fear from the night before. 2 drivers were already there. One of them looked at me and said, "Brother Akram, are you okay? You look like you barely escaped with your life." I sat down right there, grabbed a glass of water, and told them everything I had endured that night. The ringing bell, the shadows on the tent wall, the childlike voices, the truck horn, the sounds of something running under the truck, the laughter, and the footsteps that came to the truck but never left. When I finished, everyone went completely silent for a moment. I thought maybe they wouldn't believe me. I said, "Tell me honestly, what do you think? Has anything like this ever happened before?" One driver looked at me calmly and said, "Brother Akram, this isn't the first time." He said 2 or 3 drivers who passed through this area have stopped at the same spot and told the same story. I immediately asked, "What do you mean?" He replied, "At night people see the shadows of children, especially truck drivers. When they stop on this road, they see children's shadows. When the shadows appeared, the truck had to stop. One driver said he had also seen small, child-sized figures moving outside his truck. My breath caught. I had seen the same thing myself." Another driver added, "Another guy who stopped at that same point said that small footsteps walked around his truck, and he even heard laughter. But when he shone the light, there was nothing." I listened silently, my hands going cold on their own. Then a large worker spoke quietly. "This place is old. The locals say that after evening, small presences come out. Nobody can see them, only their sounds are heard. Maybe they are children of jinn." I asked in surprise, "What do they mean by that? Who are they?" He replied simply, calmly, as if stating a fact, "Children of jinn. They live in the forest and come out to observe newcomers." My heart stopped for a moment. There was no dramatization, no storytelling, just the locals' warnings and the driver's own experiences. Suddenly, everything clicked in my mind. The bell ringing, the shadows, the laughter, the footsteps, the zipper of the tent, the truck horn, the footprints that never returned. It all made sense. Finally, the drivers advised me, "Brother Akram, don't stop at that point again at night. This place is not safe. Even we don't step there after sunset." I nodded, frozen in thought. Since that day, I've never used that bell again, and I've never made the mistake of stopping in that forest. Even today, Whenever I take the Kashmir route, the ting-ting of the bell and the children's laughter echo in my ears. So that was my story. I hope you share it on your channel. Thank you for letting me share it. Friends, if you liked this story, leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, you've made a huge mistake. Look behind you. Anyone under the bed? No. Okay, just kidding. Let's move on to another story. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Bilal from Lahore. I listen to your stories every day, so I thought I'd share what happened to me. I don't remember the exact date, but it was during the second day of Eid al-Fitr, 2022. It was during the day. 6 of us cousins decided to plan a trip outside the city. My maternal family lives in Wazirabad, and there's a huge forest along the river there. I thought, why not have a barbecue party in that forest? It would be fun and also a good little adventure. I called my cousin in Wazirabad and told him we would have a party in the forest and stay overnight. I asked him to get the chicken ready. I said we'd reach by 5:00 p.m. on the second day of Eid. He agreed and told me to come over. My cousin invited several of his friends from Wazirabad too, and told everyone that we'd be heading to the forest that night. The locals call that forest Bella. By 5:00 p.m., we had reached Wazirabad from Lahore. Now the path into the forest was such that only motorcycles could manage it, and even then with great difficulty. And yes, if you're going into Bella, it's important to arrive before sunset. After that, wild animals come out and they can do anything. As we entered the forest, darkness was already falling. Thick trees surrounded us, and the path zigzagged with rough terrain that made riding even harder. As the night grew darker, fear began settling in all our hearts. Finally, after a difficult journey, we reached our destination. We set up our camps immediately, 2 camps for 16 people. The river flowed right beside the spot where we camped. It was extremely hot, yet strangely, sitting there, we didn't feel the heat at all. This was our first adventure tour. We prepared the barbecue and started eating together. I think it must have been around 1:00 a.m. A few of us cousins from Lahore were sitting in one camp, watching an Indian horror movie on our phones. Suddenly, my cousin Salman said, "Bilal, I'm really thirsty. Let's go get some water." There was a small tap not far from our camp. The 4 of us cousins went one by one to drink, when suddenly, a strong gust of wind hit us. We all instinctively covered our eyes and faces, thinking it was just the open area. One cousin, Fahd, said, "Let's move a little further and see what's there." As we moved forward, we heard a faint scream. We froze. I said, "It's nothing, probably just a bird." We started walking again, but this time the scream came louder, much louder than before. I turned around and Salman wasn't with us. Panic set in. We immediately started searching for him, calling out, "Salman, where are you? It's so dark, please say something. Don't joke around here." Adnan tried to keep calm, but after searching for a long time, we still couldn't find him. We kept moving further into the forest, calling his name, when suddenly, I saw him standing ahead, facing forward as if. I said, "Who are you talking to?" And we called out from behind, "Salman, what are you doing here alone? Who are you talking to?" When we reached him, there was no one there. We grabbed Salman by the arm and said, "Let's go back." At that moment, something suddenly hit me hard on the back, right on my waist from a tree branch. I spun around immediately, but there was no one there. The branch had just fallen to the ground. We were all terrified. Moving quickly, we returned to the tap where we had been drinking water, but the tap was running by itself. water flowing as if someone had turned it on. We ran back to our camp and told everyone what had just happened. By then, it was already 2:00 a.m. We couldn't go back from there. Fod, what can I say? It was an absolutely terrifying atmosphere. Earlier, we had been enjoying ourselves, but as fear settled in and all these events unfolded, that place became a source of pure terror for us. A little later, Soman got up and stepped out of the camp. When I went outside to check, he was sitting on the ground, seemingly playing with someone, but there was no one there. Everyone froze in fear. One cousin said, "I think something has possessed him, or a shadow has fallen on him." Somehow we waited for the morning to arrive. Around 5:00 a.m., we started heading back toward the city. We took Soman to a local spiritual elder, a Baba Jai. Baba Jai performed a ritual on him, and Soman began to feel a little better. He was given an amulet and told to wear it around his neck and never remove it. So that was my story. I hope you share it on your channel. Thank you very much for letting me share it. Assalamu alaikum, Adnan Bhai. May Allah always keep you and your family happy. I've been listening to your stories for the past 2 years, and today I thought I'd share one of my own. I am from Punjab, Pakistan, from the district of Sahiwal, Tehsil Chechewani. I cannot reveal the name of my village for certain reasons, but I can give you a rough idea of its location. On one side of our village flows the Ravi River, and on the other side, there is a major canal of Punjab. Next to the canal is a dense forest. People from our village often pass through that forest to reach other villages. The story I'm about to share actually happened with my grandfather, and I am telling it exactly as he told me. It all began when winter had started and our rice crop had ripened. It was ready to be harvested and cleaned. To clean it, we used a large iron drum. The rice plants were beaten on the drum so the grains would separate and fall to the ground. We decided that the next morning after Fajr, we would start harvesting. But there was a problem. The iron drum belonged to someone from the neighboring village. The drum had been taken by someone from the neighboring village. Villagers often helped each other, so my grandfather decided he would go himself to fetch it. After Asr prayer, he got ready to leave, but my grandmother stopped him, saying, "Bring it tomorrow morning." Time passed, but he didn't listen. He insisted he would return quickly. My grandfather picked up his axe and left. Back then, almost every villager carried an axe for protection. It was a different time. My grandfather needed it anyway because he had to go through the forest, and if any wild animals appeared, he could defend himself. He left the village, crossed the forest, and reached the neighboring village. There he asked for the drum. The locals insisted he have some tea first, asking, "Where are you rushing to without tea?" They served him tea. By that time it was Maghrib, so he set off back home, carrying the drum on his head, invoking Allah's name for protection. Darkness fell as he entered the forest. Halfway through, the night grew even darker. He started walking faster. Suddenly, someone behind him called his name. He didn't stop or turn. He knew instinctively that something was wrong. A little further, he began hearing the cries of a child. The sound grew louder and louder, but my grandfather kept moving. Then he sensed footsteps behind him, exactly like someone walking on dry leaves. Suddenly, he noticed movement in the bushes to his left, and stones began falling onto the drum he was carrying. Now he was certain, whatever this was, it would not leave him alone. He didn't stop. He told himself, "If I show fear, this thing will overpower me." But Adnan Bhai, no matter how brave a man is, fear in such a place comes naturally. Even in the cold, sweat began to pour down my grandfather's body. Then, a little further, the real danger appeared. Three figures suddenly revealed themselves. My grandfather recalls that because of the darkness, he couldn't see their faces clearly, but their height was nearly double that of a normal human, roughly 8 feet. They had long hair, heads shaped like jackal-like foxes, and eyes blazing red like fire. The three stood directly in front of him. My grandfather thought, "I am not going to survive this." Immediately, he began reciting verses from the Quran. He set the drum down and started striking it violently with his axe. Within a minute, the creatures fled, screaming. Meanwhile, the family back home was worried. My grandfather had not returned yet. My uncle and some villagers went out to search for him. As my grandfather emerged from the forest, he ran into them. They asked, "Why did you take so long?" My grandfather said nothing. Seeing my grandfather's condition, everyone immediately realized something had happened. As soon as we reached home, he developed a high fever. Then he recounted the entire story. Our local mosque elder was called. He performed a spiritual ritual on my grandfather, and after a while, my grandfather finally felt calm and at peace. That was a small incident, Adnan Bai, that happened in our village. I thought I'd share it with you. If you like it, please share it with your listeners. Thank you so much for letting me share my story with you. Now, moving on to another story. Assalamu alaikum, I really enjoy your stories. I listen to them with all my heart. I cannot reveal my name. I am from a small village in Uttar Pradesh, India. I was born Hindu, but now I am a Muslim. My story begins in my village when I was in 7th grade. My father and brother both worked in Bangalore. My brother got a good position at a cartoon animation company, and his salary was quite high at that time. My mother and I stayed in the village, so my father and brother loved me very much. They fulfilled all my wishes. Because of this, I became a bit spoiled in the village. Nobody would correct me, and I had no interest in studies. Wandering around became my full-time job. The real story begins with the village electricity schedule. At night, electricity was available only from 10:00 p.m. to 5:00 a.m., and during the day from 10:00 a.m. to 5:00 p.m. In our village, there was a Muslim uncle who worked in Saudi Arabia. He had sent a VCR back home for his family. When electricity came at night, they would play movies on the VCR outside their house, and many villagers would gather to watch. I was one of them. But my house was in the Hindu section of the village, and their house was across the street in the Muslim section. Every night, I would sneak over from my neighborhood to watch the movies and bring some biscuits and snacks so they wouldn't stop me. One night after my mother had fallen asleep, I quietly got up and went to watch the movie. To give you an idea, in my village, if you go to the Muslim neighborhood, the mosque comes first along the roadside, and then the houses. That night we were all watching the movie when suddenly the electricity went out. We waited a bit, but it didn't come back, and soon it was 2:00 a.m. Normally, power outages were common, but this time it was different. After a while, the electricity usually comes back, but that night, it never did. We turned off the VCR and everyone went back to their homes. Since I went there every night, normally there would be lights on outside people's houses, so I could easily make my way back home and go to sleep. But that night, there was complete darkness. Everyone was already asleep. The night was absolutely silent, without even a single light. I started walking quickly toward my house in the darkness. I could hear insects making noises, and the village felt terrifying. I was extremely scared and kept moving faster, trying to reach home as soon as possible. There was a narrow street just past the house near the mosque, and I was coming back through that same street. When I reached the end of the lane and got close to the mosque, you won't believe what I saw. I saw some people dressed entirely in white. They were standing outside the mosque, and a few of them were sitting and washing their hands and faces at the place where Muslims perform ablution. I was walking fast and ended up right in front of them. Believe me, when I saw them, I couldn't believe my own eyes. They were completely white and incredibly tall. When I came face to face with them, they all turned and looked at me. I was terrified. I ran back into the alley and hid, watching them from there. Then one of them came toward me and spoke. I still remember his words clearly. He said, "What are you doing here?" I couldn't speak. I slightly looked at his face. It was glowing and his beard was shining. I stayed silent, unable to say anything. Then he said, "Come with me or I will do something bad." So I went with him. When we reached near the mosque, one of them calmly asked me, "Son, what are you doing here so late at night?" I could only say, "I'm going home. Please let me go." He replied, "All right, you may go, but after today, never come outside at this hour. This time is dangerous for you." Then he said to two of his companions, "Take him home. This is a dangerous time for children." I heard everything clearly, and even today I remember it exactly as it happened. Then the two of them said to me, "Walk ahead and don't look back." I didn't say anything. I was shaking with fear. I started walking ahead and they followed behind me. I could clearly hear the sound of their footsteps. At that moment, I was terrified and walking quickly toward my house. My heart kept telling me to turn around and see if they were still there, but fear wouldn't let me look back. As soon as I reached near my house, I suddenly ran as fast as I could and turned back. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. So friends, tell me, which of today's stories did you find the scariest? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and subscribe because your support motivates us. When you leave great comments, it encourages me to keep doing even better work. I hope you continue supporting the channel like you always have. Thank you. Friends, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you liked them, don't forget to like the video. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell icon and turn on all notifications so you become a part of my YouTube family and never miss any of my stories. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz. Story 2: The Shadow Within. This story is based on real experiences and traditions related to spiritual practices, retreats, and mystical encounters. It is intended purely for listening. Do not attempt to perform or try these practices yourself. Spiritual exercises without proper guidance can have severe mental, physical, and spiritual effects. Any practice, experiment, or pursuit of these spiritual arts is your own responsibility. Prepare yourself mentally before listening, because what follows goes beyond the limits of ordinary reality. I watch your YouTube channel every day and listen to your chilling stories daily. Your voice is, mashallah, captivating and deeply affecting. I am sending you my personal story, and I want you to upload it on your channel. I'm sure you will present it as professionally and engagingly as you always do. My name is Andrew. This is the name only a few friends know, and everyone else calls me by a different real name, which I cannot disclose here. This happened in 2017. Life was already slow, difficult, and full of problems, but I didn't realize that the real trouble in my life wouldn't come from humans. it would come from shadows. This incident happened when I was still a child. In our village, the harvest was in full swing, and it was common for me to take food to my family in the fields near the trees. That day, I rode my bicycle to deliver the meal. After giving them the food, I sat down under a tree near the river. There was a strange silence in the air, as if the entire forest was holding its breath. I don't know why, but I felt like someone was standing behind me. I didn't turn around, yet I sensed someone leaning close to my ear, breathing softly. When I started heading back with the empty utensils, a sudden pain hit my back, as if something had twisted and grabbed me from the inside. I burst into tears and collapsed, bending over in pain. From that day on, the same pain returned every single day for an entire month. We went to doctors and got tests done, but nothing showed up. Strangely, the day we came back from the doctor, without any medicine, the stomach pain disappeared. At the time, we felt relieved. But now, when I look back, I realize that pain wasn't an illness. It was the first sign of something invisible, something angry that has stayed with me ever since. Winter arrived. Time passed. Some winter nights went by in a way that even remembering them today sends chills through my body. I slept alone in my room, door closed, air completely still, late into the night. I often heard sounds as if someone was lifting the lid off a water jug, then pouring water into a glass. At first, I thought it was just my imagination or the wind. But one night, I opened my eyes and saw that the jug was still in its place, yet the water level was lower. Had someone drunk from it? I was alone in the room. There was no one else. Then came the night that made me believe in jinn for the rest of my life. The room was extremely cold. Suddenly, 2 or 3 short figures emerged from the darkness near the door. They were completely silent and didn't look human. When they moved, it felt like their feet didn't even touch the ground. They stood in the corner, speaking softly among themselves. The language was unfamiliar, words I couldn't understand, but there was a terrifying calmness in their voices, a fear that traveled straight from my ears into my heart. My eyes would shut on their own out of terror, and I would remain frozen to the ground until morning. That was when I realized these beings were not ordinary, and they were not going to leave me. Months passed and my troubles only increased. One day, a spiritual healer came to our village. When I stood before him at a relative's house, he stared at me silently for a while but said nothing. Later, I decided to meet him again, and one day we finally spoke. His name was Sheik. The moment I sat in front of him, he said something that left me stunned. He spoke my name. The name only a few of my friends knew. Without asking anything, he seemed to understand everything. Maybe he had what I didn't. That power, the same power that had been searching for me. Yes, these forces had been with me long ago, but I never understood it. Then the Sheik said, "I see many beings with you." His words felt like salt rubbed into an open wound. Every incident echoed in my mind. The pain on the harvest day, the terrifying winter nights. All of it came rushing back. The terrifying nights, the sounds of someone drinking water, those short figures. Abhishek said, "These forces want to stay with you. That's why they haven't harmed you." Until then, I had been sitting silently. My heartbeat was so loud I could hear it in my ears. Then I spoke. "Sheik, for the past few years I've been sensing these forces. My heart wants to speak to them, to befriend them, and to have them obey my commands. I want spiritual powers of my own." I had finally said what was in my heart. The Sheik understood me, and after some discussion, he accepted me as his disciple. That was a new chapter of my life. a complete turning point. A few days later, I went back to the sheik and asked him about the path to attaining these powers. He told me about Chilla, a 40-day spiritual retreat, a dark room, a single candle, strict fasting, severe discipline, specific recitations, Jalali and Jamali prayers, and much more. I gathered my courage and took permission from the sheik. Perhaps I was exhausted, or perhaps I already knew what this world of unseen beings truly was. I made all the arrangements and began the Chilla. During the first few days, faint sounds, trembling leaves, and unnaturally long shadows on the walls tormented me. But then, for the first time, the shadow appeared in a complete form. I was reciting my prayers when someone whispered directly behind me, "Anju, what are you?" When I turned around, I saw myself standing in the corner of the room. It had my face, but its eyes were white, lifeless, and its face looked dead. It was smiling. On the 20th night, utensils in the house began breaking on their own. I heard footsteps running across the roof. Objects shifted from their places. Many other horrifying incidents kept happening. On the 40th night, the shadow tried to possess me. By candlelight, its shadow stretched longer and longer across the wall, as if it was about to consume my entire body. I recited my prayers with all my strength. It screamed and struck the walls violently. The room filled with smoke and the smell of fire. I continued my recitation, and finally I completed it. Suddenly, everything went silent as if nothing had ever happened. I had succeeded, at least for that night. That night my Hamzat came to me, identical to my appearance. We set conditions between us and I asked how to summon it. Then I told it to leave. Many people do not succeed in their first Chilla. Some have to attempt it 2 or 3 times before achieving success. But I succeeded on my very first attempt because my teacher, Sheik, was with me. His power stood beside mine. These were the conditions my Hamzat placed before me. If even one was broken, the shadow would overpower both my body and my soul. The conditions were: purity, I must never deceive anyone. Power, I must never misuse these abilities or send it to do evil. Truth, I must never lie. The condition of flight. I can lift you into the air, but never in front of human eyes. Only in complete darkness, forests, rivers, or open fields. If you ever desire to fly during the day, the first body to fall will be yours. The condition of prayer and spiritual discipline. Regular prayer and strict spiritual obedience were mandatory. You will not reveal my existence to ordinary people. Your intentions must always remain pure. After the Chilla, my life completely changed. I began to sense things that ordinary people never could: movement in the shadows, people's hidden intentions, and at times, the lingering whispers of my Hamzat. Once the Hamzat came under my control, I felt something awaken inside me. It wasn't just a shadow anymore. There was an influence, a force, a strange energy that carried both light and the eerie magic of the night silence. The first thing I did was help people around me. I resolved family disputes because, without hearing a single word, I could feel the truth hidden inside their hearts. I freed many people from their fear of the night. I would simply place my hand on their head, and the pressure crushing their soul from within would fade away. I helped people recover lost belongings as well, because my Hamzat could see places through the paths of the air, places where human eyes could never reach. For those afflicted by the evil eye, I recited brief prayers and watched the color return to their faces. But for myself, I opened doors that had always remained closed to ordinary humans. I sensed my enemies' intentions before they even showed on their faces. I knew who truly stood with me, and who, despite seeming close, was slowly poisoning my life from the shadows. That power, unknown to anyone else, had one ability that was the strangest and most secret of all: flight. My Hamzat had placed a strict condition. I could only fly in complete darkness and total solitude. In daylight, or in front of another human being, this power would completely shut down. I never broke that rule. At night, when everyone slept, I would quietly step outside. I would walk to the riverbank, the same river where I had once sat as a child, where the shadow had first noticed me. As soon as I took a few steps toward the water, my feet would slowly lift off the ground on their own. The air would grow cold. Moisture from the clouds would brush against my face, and I would begin to drift gently above the river. Below me, the water flowed endlessly. Above me, the shadowed sky. No sound, no wings, just me and my Hamzat pulling me through the darkness. Those moments belonged only to me, hidden from the world, wrapped in secrecy, filled with a power that no one would believe if they ever witnessed it. That was the time when my strength held both light and the magic of the night. But the journey of power is never straight. Wherever there is light, darkness follows closely behind. And one day I began drifting toward that darkness. Slowly, I started using my power for my own benefit, forcing people to bend to my will, making others accept what I wanted, drawing a woman toward me against her heart, terrifying a man so deeply that he could never dare harm me, learning people's secrets and using them to pressure and control them. I treated it all like a game, but deep inside a voice kept whispering, just once more. What will happen? But once, then twice, then habit. I went out into the night and did another. He even began to exploit his weaknesses. Conversations behind closed doors, family members, fights, girl secrets, and all the things no man should know. He fostered illicit relationships. He awakened desires in some girls that were truly his. I could change their likes and dislikes, even their thinking. I knew this. It's oppression, but power makes a person see it as justified, Arja. Then one day I found myself in it. I treated the girl badly, just because she didn't respond to my messages. It was at that moment that I began to consider myself not a human being, but rather its owner. This was the foundation of my wandering, not because of my kindred spirits, but because of my own intentions. So when I turned to the dark side, it was a result of my mistakes. No sudden change, but I became intoxicated with power. Power is easy to obtain, but that power cannot be purified. It was the most difficult test, and I failed. I accepted Hamzat's instructions. He broke most of the conditions. He maintained chastity and did not venture out aimlessly at night. He touched people's hearts. Don't enslave, don't be Aurora, don't spread fear. But the intoxication of power blinds humans. It does. I hadn't broken the conditions, but my spirit. At first, everything seemed normal, namaze. He stopped, reduced his recitation. The light within him began to dim. When Hamzat came, he spoke softly. His voice was no longer as strong as before. Even the light on his face had a strange inkling. It kept coming and going. One night I looked up. He was standing in the distance. He was looking at me, but he's not coming close. I called him and he took a bath. This was the first sign that Shariat had been defeated. A distance had been created between me and her. Then things began to change. Strange shadows in the room. Whispers behind closed doors. walking along a river at night with someone behind you. Footsteps before I was running on strength. Now the strength was burning me. Sometimes I would wake up in the dark and find myself outside the house. No shoes, no consciousness, just the cold night in me. Uncontrollable existence. I attracted girls to me without their consent. I entered their hearts. I instilled feelings that weren't theirs. I instilled fear in some men so they would listen to me. I agreed. With every mistake, a line was drawn across my soul. One night, Hamzat harshly. "Anju," he said coldly, "the intoxication of power is a burning sensation for the soul. You're breaking the terms. And I won't be able to walk with you." This was the first time he treated me like a human being. No, I saw it as a threat. I didn't listen to him, but instead made a bigger mistake, and then the darkness opened a secret within me that the light cannot return. It was the worst time. Sheikh Karamat was the first to notice when I broke my terms. One day he said in a stern tone, "Anju, your strength is becoming a burden inside you, Jinn. There were conditions, you ruined them all. Hamzat will leave you one day, and that day is near." I bowed my head, but by that time it was too late. A few nights later, I realized that Hamzat's presence was not the same as before when I called him. He just stood at a distance, silent and tired, as if trying to say, "You yourself have left my path." He's closed it down. Then one night he came again, but for the first time his tone was not affectionate. There was only separation. "My journey is now different from yours. You didn't defeat the power, you defeated yourself." It is, and he's gone forever. Like a shadow separates from a soul, there's no room left after that. It remained the same as before. My heart was not there, but my inner world had collapsed. There was sadness everywhere. There was embarrassment, and the realization that I had forgotten my teacher's advice. Sheikh Karamat looked at me for the last time and said, "If you want light, then do hijab with darkness. This place will never bring you peace." And that's what forced me to make a decision. I left my homeland. That house, those streets, that river, that grave where everything. It had begun. I quietly moved to Iraq in 2019. This was not a migration, but a journey of repentance. It's been 6 years now. Neither Hamzat nor those nights have returned. I have chosen the spiritual path. I buried the darkness within me and took refuge in simplicity. I am far from strength. But for the first time, I'm closer to myself. I've been in Iraq for 6 years now, and every second or third day, I dream that there is some force that is blowing me away. If I am facing some problem in my dream, then suddenly a strength comes and it makes you fly. So that was my story. I hope you like it and share it with others. I will definitely share it on my channel. The purpose of sharing this incident is to serve as a lesson. Wise people would have understood, and I regret what I did in my life. Let's move on to another story. To this day, I've only told this story to my family and a few close friends. I was a university student, and at home, I lived in a city far away from my hometown. I don't want to reveal my name or city. I would like to. It so happened that my brother got married, and soon after the wedding, he started university. Because of this, I couldn't spend much time with my family. I had to go back. A month later, I returned home for the weekend. I arrived late at night, and after eating, I returned to my house to sleep. I have lived in the same house since childhood, so this wasn't a new place for me. I closed my eyes to sleep, and exhausted, I fell asleep immediately. At some point in the night, my eyes suddenly opened and my there's very little companionship. Once I fall asleep, it's hard to stay awake again. But that time my eyes opened, and I felt that someone was present in the room. I tried to get up and look, but my body was numb. I couldn't move. I fell asleep. I was in palaces, which had happened many times before, but this time something was different. Never before has anything felt as present in the sleep palace. It was getting worse. The pressure on my body was increasing. It was like someone was pushing me down. I was lying absolutely still and looking around the room when suddenly my eyes fell on the bathroom door and couldn't move away. It seemed as if the door was. There's someone right behind, and the feeling of his presence grows stronger and stronger. I was staring at the door when suddenly I felt. It felt like something was pulling me towards that door. It felt exactly like there's a huge vacuum machine running behind the door, pulling me towards it. Yes, and I was pulling helplessly. Suddenly, he pulled me towards him with force. I took it, and then I went into a deep state of unconsciousness or sleep. I know, when I opened my eyes again, I wondered what kind of dream it was. I looked, I wanted to get up, but I couldn't. I was now in the sleep palace. I was in a state of shock. After some time, I realized I was not in my bed, and it was. I don't have a bedroom. I was lying on the bathroom floor, and I was completely. It was dark. All this I had seen before was not a dream, but reality. My heart began to pound. The pressure on my body was so intense that it was becoming difficult to breathe. Being closed from all sides, I was feeling the lack of oxygen and the need for something. The sense of presence was at its peak. He was right in front of me. I couldn't describe that feeling in words. My sixth sense from the very beginning. It's been strong. Since childhood, I've always been quick to sense the presence of such things. But what I was feeling this time wasn't normal. It was something else. I don't know. I don't know how long I was there, lying on the bathroom floor, but I think I was several hours. I lay there in a state of discomfort. That thing wouldn't let me move. One method of sleep dialysis is to wake yourself up by giving your body a shock. I can get out of that state. I've been trying to do the same thing, but I haven't been successful. Then suddenly the pressure began to decrease, and I immediately jerked my body in. I woke up. I was lying on my bed in my room, and the Fajr prayer was going off. My heart was pounding. My breathing was irregular. Was this a dream or reality? Just a feeling. I couldn't understand anything. I thought the experience was a hallucination. I thought perhaps the long journey and the fatigue had caused me to have such a dream. The next night I woke up to mine. I slept in my parents' room, which was on the first floor. My actual room was on the ground floor, where this incident occurred last night. There was an unknown fear in my heart that brought me away from my room and upstairs. I fell asleep that night. My parents were asleep too. Suddenly I woke up, and I was back at that same cafe. Sleep palaces all began to creep up on me. It came back to me. Why is this happening? I was looking around. Suddenly my eyes landed on the closed door. She stopped, but then she felt the same sense of someone behind that door. This room. It was mostly closed. During weddings, it was used to store wedding paraphernalia. There was one bedroom that was rarely opened. It was mostly closed. Now there were some. The house was kept stocked. Because of the closure, cleaning was minimal and no one in the house. I neither lived in it nor slept in it. I should also mention that this closed bedroom downstairs. It was built directly above the bedroom. and its attached washroom was adjacent to the downstairs washroom. I was upstairs. My eyes were fixed on that door. Suddenly, the same noise started again, and there was something else. She started pulling me towards her from behind the closed door. Oh, what a scene it was. Then suddenly he pulled me towards him and I slipped back into unconsciousness or sleep. When I opened my eyes, I was in the same closed state. I was lying on the bedroom floor. I struggled to breathe and felt the earthy sensation, every breath. With me, because this room had been closed for so long, I was gasping for breath and my heart was pounding as if it had been lifted out of my body and was racing. I was in that same dilemma. I was in the room when the door to the attached bathroom suddenly opened. It felt even darker and more intense than the darkness of the night. I stood there looking. Suddenly, a shadow moved forward, but it remained within the confines of the washroom. It didn't come out. Awe gripped me, and I stared at him without blinking. I realized it was the shadow of a woman. She was wearing black clothes. She was tall. She had black hair. She had her head bowed down, her face hidden in her hair. Suddenly, she raised her head and looked at me. Half of her face was hidden in her hair, and half of it was visible, a white mustachioed face and red eyes. Seeing all this, for a moment, I felt as if my life had stopped in my throat. I couldn't understand where I was. What am I seeing? But what is happening to me? I saw the Ayatul Kursi. I started to do it. She stared at me in awe, and I did too. I was looking at him. I somehow managed to control my body with all my strength. I was jolted open. I was lying in bed. My parents were asleep. He was asleep. I looked at him. He was oblivious. He didn't know what was happening to me. What happened and what I saw. I was drenched in sweat. I was panting for a while. I sat up. I normalized myself. After a while, I recited the verses, Kursi, and the 4 Kulas and sat down again. I went asleep. The next day, I didn't say anything to anyone because I had to go back and I was home. I didn't want to disturb them. The weekend was over and I returned. The next day, back to university and classes. I got busy, but the impact of that meeting remained with me for a long time. Months later, my semester ended and I returned home for the holidays. Later, we all sat together as family members chatted. As soon as everyone got back to their rooms, I walked in. I was sitting with my mother. In the course of conversation, she said, "You know, I found an amulet in the upstairs bathroom. Even after the wedding, that room. It had been closed for a long time, so I decided to open it and get it cleaned. That bathroom cleaning. While dusting, she touched the top of the bathroom cabinet and found something. It felt strange. The top of the cabinet was out of sight. He placed the chair. She sat there, looked up, and was stunned. There was an amulet there. She picked it up and it was a very unusual amulet. It was mounted on a cardboard box. It was strange and creepy. The thing was that there were burnt matchsticks on all 4 corners of the paper. As soon as I heard this, the same wave of fear ran through me which I had felt during those 2 days. I interrupted my mother and said, "You should finish your talk. I also have something to tell you about this." My mother looked at me in surprise. Then she said, "Do you know what's on that amulet?" "What was written? Where did I tell you?" She said it had my name written on it and the words husband and wife. Allergy and death were also written. I stared at them in amazement. The past few months, my mother was often unwell. Sometimes she would spend the entire day in bed. I didn't have the courage to fly. I even saw a doctor, but everything was in the clear. It was normal. After listening to him, I told him my story. The last time I came, I felt and saw all this. He looked at me with a mixture of surprise and awe. Then she said, I once went to that room in the afternoon. It had been closed for quite some time. I prayed there. I read it and fell asleep for a while. Suddenly, I felt something on top of me and she's choking me. I asked her, did you see that? What was that thing? She said yes, she had. Then I told her everything I had seen of her, what she looked like, mother. She said yes, she was exactly like that. We sat there for a long time looking at each other. Both of them had nothing to say. Immediately after receiving the amulet, the mother. After that, his health gradually improved. After hearing this, I felt deeply about that introduction, meeting, and the reality hidden behind it. This was my story. Please share it on your channel. Let's move on to another story. And before moving ahead in the story, I have a small request. If you like my story, if you listen to it, like it, and if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, then subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to get notifications of my stories and more. This is your only benefit when you subscribe, and the channel grows. So does your brother. He also becomes happy, gets motivation, and then he feels like doing more good work. I hope you will be a part of this motivation. Subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon, and share this channel with your friends and family if possible. Give it, that's it, and it won't cost you a penny, and no gold at all. The next story is going to be quite exciting, so let's move on to the story. I'm from India. My name is Miss Ba, and I'm sharing this story. This is a great lesson for young brothers and sisters. The story begins with me. A trip with university friends. Her friend's elder sister Daraksha and her friends. We went on a trip. We were all 20 or 21 years old, and Daraksha and her friends were 30 or 32 years old. It takes me a while to open up to new people, so I felt very uneasy throughout the trip. I felt awkward and mostly sat with my best friend in the car. Another boy was sitting behind us. Mahmoud, he kept trying to talk to me, but I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying. He asked Daksha Appa to take my phone. He asked for my number. He asked for my age and everything. Then he said he wanted to be related to her. I'll take it with me. My friend told me this later because she had overheard it. We left for the trip in the morning and returned home by evening. As soon as we got home, I received a call from an unknown number. The message came, "You're home." I was so tired that I didn't pay attention and fell asleep. Morning. I woke up and opened the message. When I got to university, I shared it with my friend. A WhatsApp message with the name Mahmoud appeared. We understood, but I didn't reply. I did. In 2 days, we'll make another plan and go to the movie with the group. The same spectator, Shapa, and his friend Mahmoud also arrived unannounced. I found it very strange that, why do they always show up wherever we go? Anyway, all the friends are waiting in the mall lobby. I was doing it. There was still some time before the movie started. I have a habit of checking my purse. I keep a comb. I was doing my hair while talking to my friend. And Mahmoud, I didn't even realize when he came and sat next to me. He stole my scent. I took it, I noticed it and thought it was right there. Where did it go? We all searched for it together. I thought it might have fallen to the floor. I checked my bag until I found it myself. I began to suspect that perhaps she hadn't even sat down with the comb. Just then, the movie started and everyone went to see the movie. Then, in the week that followed, I don't know what happened to me. It happened. Odd and by, that boy started calling me and I started talking to him. While talking, he found out my mother's name, when I was born, and everything else. One day he called and said straight away, "I like you very much, and I want to marry you." I refused because he was much older than me and I had no feelings for him. She wasn't. He angrily hung up and left, and then he didn't call for several days. I didn't, but after that day I became very sick. My hair started falling out. The dark circles under my eyes began to lighten. I didn't feel like eating all night long. I would stay awake. I couldn't understand why this was happening. For days, I would be away from university. She didn't go either. One day, I received a message from Dracula Path. Let me tell you all in advance. She also shared with Mahmoud that Miss Ba wanted your shawl. That pink one. The one you came wearing on the tip. I'm going for a day with my friends. Yes, I'll give it to her when I get back. I gave her the shawl. A week passed after that. She came to my house with Kier and a bottle of rose perfume. I first asked, "Diddy, where is my shawl?" She said that we had taken the car on rent and the shawl was left there. So I made the apology. I have brought it in here. Also, I got angry with you. That what kind of carelessness is this, but I did not say anything. After this Adnan Bai, my health deteriorated further, and I started praying and reciting Quran. I started getting away from him, and I started having severe headache from Maghrib till Fajr. The tears of pain wouldn't stop flowing. I felt sick for 24 hours. She smelled of meat. She became so disturbed by the smell that she always had to tie a cloth over her nose. I stay with my aunt even when Hatta is asleep. Perhaps my aunt thought. The smell wafted from outside, but it continued even inside the closed room, listening to the Quran being recited. I felt restless. At night my whole body would go numb. My eyes would be open, but she was unable to move. She would suddenly wake up at night and find darkness all around her bed. I would see people standing around in costumes. I would get so nervous that I wouldn't stop until the sun came up. I would stay awake because of this. This started happening every day. I started hearing voices when I was alone. Whenever I go to the washroom or take a bath, I feel like someone is inside with me. Humming sounds would come. Whenever I was home alone, I would feel like running around the house. Sometimes someone would knock on the door. Sometimes I would hear the voices of my mother and aunt. Sometimes I would hear the voices of my family members calling me by my name from another room. The doors would sometimes open and sometimes close on their own, even when no one was home. The excitement grew so intense that my mind went numb. I felt terrified. But after a while, I would forget everything. It was because of those issues that I left. I quit. I didn't talk to anyone. I stopped going to university all day. I would have stayed home. My studies were ruined. I couldn't take exams or study at home. Slowly, I started having dreams that the boy, Mahmoud, was taking me somewhere into the jungle. I and an old woman is burning a talisman and laughing at me scared. I'm that boy. I tell him in my dream there's a woman there, but he says no, there's no one. Then I dreamed that Idharsha was dancing around me, having cut my braid. Laughing, I swear to God, at Nanbai, I had this dream every day. I was very worried. Whenever I intended to pray, the impurity would begin, and there was no stopping it. I didn't take it. My weight dropped to just 32 kilos. Then I started having dreams. That boy, Mahmoud, was picking me up in his arms and throwing me into the gutter. This dream also became recurring. One day, I learned from YouTube that dreams can be interpreted. So, I told my aunt everything in private. My aunt cried a lot because when she was my age, someone had done black magic on her too. He did this. Because of this, he has not been able to get married to this day. He never wasted a single moment. She did and took me to a village that very day. By the time we got there, it was evening. Now it was night, Rafik. Nana stayed at my aunt's uncle's house, and I had such a high fever that I stayed up all night. My aunt kept placing cold water compresses on my head. He told me this because he was the only one who knew about this scholar's taunt. The next morning, when I heard from him, when I took him to a scholar, he told me just by looking at my eyes that some boy had cast a spell on me. He would feed me something he liked, and maybe even mix it in my food, so that I would come under his control. I should go and obey his every word. He also told me that this was a very bad babahu. He teaches me bad knowledge. He doesn't have good knowledge. He cursed me. He gave me some amulets. They were instructed to adhere to the Quran and prayer, and not to leave the house after Maghrib. I went. He also said, "You will feel very uncomfortable while praying and reciting the Quran, but you have to maintain it. Be brave. Don't wear perfume. Always keep your head covered. And don't give your used items to anyone. Don't eat anything from anyone's hands." Later, we came home, and I slowly started doing these things again, but there was no significant effect. It didn't happen. Perhaps my faith was weak because I was constantly immersed in those activities. I was very tired of the illness. The only thing that suddenly stopped was my childhood. The repetition stopped. Then one day at midnight, I received a call from that boy, my brother Dan. My hands and feet started to tremble. Why is he calling? Has he somehow found out that? Where did I go? I didn't pick up the call. He called me 26 times. So finally, I answered the call. I didn't say anything. No hello, no response. He asked, "Are you? Can you meet me?" It was 4:00 in the morning. His voice suggested he was. He was completely drunk and slurred his words. I asked him why he was calling. "What?" he said. "I love you so much. How dare you do that to someone? To go to a scholar. You took me for granted. Now see what I do." I didn't want to let it be known that I knew everything and had gone to the scholar. I gathered my courage. Even though my hands were cold, I kept my voice strong. "What are you saying? I'm not afraid of your threats, nor do I like you. Don't call me again." He started laughing loudly and said, "I have your pictures. I have connections with prominent gurus and tantrics. Now I will do this to you. She will come begging at my feet." Hearing this, my head started spinning. But this was my test. I responded with a vengeance. "Do whatever you want for my Lord. You won't be able to go any further. I have complete faith in my Lord that nothing will happen to me." Afterward, I prayed Fajr and cried, asking Allah for help. Then I couldn't sleep. Because of this, I just opened YouTube. "Brother Adan, believe me, it's from God. Please help." The first YouTube session I found was by Rukia. It was 3 hours long. I was so impressed. I decided to listen to it every day. That night, I put on my earphones and listened for 3 hours before going to bed. I woke up in discomfort at dawn and started vomiting so much that and my aunt couldn't believe her eyes. 1-year-old cucumbers in the vomit. I should tell you that I not only produced milk that day, but also that week. I hadn't eaten anything because I was so sick that I only ate boiled lentils and I could only eat rice. I vomited so badly that I couldn't even stand up. I lost all strength, but alhamdulillah, it's God's grace. I've been having dreams ever since. The sound of the body coming to sleep, the sound of the body coming from the air, everything stopped. Alhamdulillah, I'm healthy again. I've even gained my weight back from that group. My relationship is completely over. The only thing I have left is my best friend. I'd just like to offer this advice. Do not give your used things to anyone, and stay away from people who they are jealous of you. My friend told me, and she still does, that Mahmoud and she, the other guy, is devastated and ruined. He's drunk all day. He doesn't do any work. They just wander around. Their condition is so bad that at one point in the house, I don't even have money to buy rations. May Allah protect all my brothers and sisters from such things. May He protect all Muslims and keep them under His protection. And whoever is in trouble or distress, please alleviate his suffering. Amen. O Lord of the worlds, thank you very much for sharing your story. Shared, it's exactly what all young sisters and brothers, young and old, should know. Especially girls, take great care of yourself because your parents who love people and have worked hard for you all their lives, God forbid something should happen to you. They break down. You are their strong support. They have dedicated their youth to you. But you are their honor. Take care of yourself and those who take advice from these stories. You get these, don't just listen to them as stories. You should also implement them. Do not keep your hair open as is the case in Islam. Keep a veil. Remain clean and pure and pray Quran. If we have faith in this, then insha'Allah we will stay away from such things, whether someone is jealous or not. Whether someone is imparting dark knowledge or some alien creature is trying to dominate us. You are doing it. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. Choose the best story from these. If you liked it, please tell me in the comments which story you liked the most. This helps me select the best content for you. Take care of yourselves. Friends, I hope you're happy today. You must have enjoyed the stories. If you enjoyed the stories, don't forget to like the video. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe to it. Click the bell icon. Press all to turn on notifications. This will make you a part of my YouTube family. You'll receive end notifications for my stories. Take care of yourself.